Asterisk, asterisk. God's presence and comfort. A story of divine assurance. In the midst of life's most chaotic moments, when the world feels like it's spinning too fast and the burdens we carry seem impossible to bear, there is a comforting truth we must remember: there are no accidents. Every step we take, no matter how uncertain or painful, is known by God. His presence is never far, even in our darkest hours. He sees our hidden tears, the pain we carry in silence, and the thoughts we rarely share with others. God is with us in those moments when we feel most alone, and it's through His presence that we find true peace and comfort. One rainy evening, as the clouds gathered overhead, Mark found himself sitting alone on the porch, lost in thought. His life had recently been thrown into turmoil. Personal struggles had become overwhelming, and the sense of being lost in a sea of challenges began to take hold of him. The noise of the world around him only amplified the quiet despair he felt inside. But in that moment of solitude, as the rain tapped softly on the roof, a deep stillness settled over him. Mark had always believed in God, but lately his faith had wavered. The weight of disappointment, failure, and heartache had clouded his perspective. Yet there was something in the silence that made him pause. It was as if a voice from within whispered, "I am here. I have always been with you." With a deep breath, Mark closed his eyes. He allowed the comforting presence of God to fill his heart. The anxiety and pain he had been holding on to for so long began to melt away, replaced by a sense of peace he hadn't felt in ages. It was as if God's love was enveloping him, reminding him that no matter how broken or lost he felt, he was never alone. As he sat there, the wind picking up around him, Mark reflected on the moments in his life when he thought he was beyond God's reach. He remembered the sleepless nights, the times when his heart felt heavy with grief, and the days when he tried to keep a brave face for the world, even though inside he was crumbling. Yet, in each of those moments, God was always near, watching, waiting for Mark to open his heart and receive his comfort. Mark thought about how easy it was to overlook God's presence when life was difficult. It often felt as though the world was indifferent to his pain, but God was never indifferent. He saw Mark's struggles, every hidden tear, and every broken piece of his heart. God knew the depths of his pain, and He had been with him every step of the way, even when Mark felt abandoned by the world. In that moment of clarity, Mark understood. God's love doesn't depend on our successes or failures. It's not conditional on our perfection or performance. God loves us in our brokenness, in our pain, and in our struggles. His love is steady, unwavering, and unconditional. Mark realized that the pain he had been carrying for so long wasn't something he had to shoulder alone. God was right there beside him, offering comfort and peace. It was in these quiet moments, when he allowed himself to be vulnerable, that he could truly experience the depth of God's love. It wasn't just about enduring hardships, it was about embracing God's presence, knowing that He was working through the pain to bring about healing. The more Mark reflected on this, the more he felt God's presence wrap around him like a warm blanket. He understood that there were no accidents in life. Every challenge, every heartache, every moment of despair had been part of a bigger plan that was guided by God's love. Through all of it, God had been shaping him, teaching him to trust in His timing and to find comfort in His eternal presence. As the rain slowly stopped and the sky began to clear, Mark stood up, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he also knew that God would always be with him, guiding him, comforting him, and filling him with peace. With God by his side, he was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that he was never alone. In the end, Mark's heart was filled with a profound peace, one that only God's comforting presence could bring. He had learned that no matter how painful the journey, God's love would always be his refuge and his strength. And in that truth, he found Hopeia. Hope that would carry him through any storm life threw his way. Boundless love, a story of God's unconditional love. In a small town nestled in the heart of the mountains, there lived a young woman named Lily. Her life was full of highs and lows, triumphs and setbacks. Like many, she had dreams of success, love, and fulfillment. But life had a way of testing her at every turn. Lily had been through challenges that left her questioning her worth, wondering if she was truly deserving of happiness. She had seen the world turn its back on her at times, and it was easy to feel like she was walking alone. But deep within her heart, there was a whisper on that told her she was not alone, that there was a love greater than anything she could imagine. Lily had grown up knowing about God's love. She had heard the stories, sung the songs, and prayed the prayers. But as she navigated the twists and turns of adulthood, she began to feel that perhaps God's love was conditional only for those who had it all together, those who always succeeded, those who never faltered. In her moments of failure, she doubted if she truly mattered to God. It wasn't until one quiet evening, sitting alone by the window, that she heard a voice that would change everything. "Lily," the voice whispered softly, "my love for you is boundless. It does not depend on your successes or failures. It is unconditional, and it will never waver." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes as she listened to these words. In that moment, something deep inside her stirred. She realized that God's love wasn't just for the perfect, the successful, or the unbroken. It was for her just as she was. All the mistakes she had made, all the times she had fallen short of her own expectations, didn't disqualify her from his love. God loved her in her imperfection, in her brokenness, in her pain. His love wasn't about her performance, it was about his character, about who he was. The days following that revelation were filled with a quiet peace. Lily began to understand that God's love wasn't something to be earned or deserved. It was a gift freely given, a love that didn't fluctuate with the ups and downs of life. She began to see the world differently. Instead of measuring her worth by what she could achieve, she realized her worth was rooted in who she was in God's eyes. She didn't have to prove herself to Anyo ni not even to herself. As she walked through the challenges life continued to present, Lily held tightly to this newfound understanding. When she made mistakes, she no longer let guilt and shame keep her trapped. Instead, she turned to God, knowing that his love was bigger than her failures. When life didn't go according to plan, she no longer doubted her place in the world. God's love remained constant, and that was enough. She didn't need to be perfect, she just needed to trust in the truth that God loved her unconditionally. One evening, Lily stood outside, watching the sunset, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink. She thought about how much she had changed since that moment of revelation. The love of God had transformed her heart, giving her the strength to move forward even when life didn't make sense. She felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that nothing, no failure, no disappointment, no heartache could ever separate her from the love of God. Lily realized that God's love wasn't just a passive feeling. It was a powerful force that could heal wounds, mend broken hearts, and restore hope. She had experienced it firsthand, and now she was determined to share it with others, to be a reflection of the boundless love she had received. She began to reach out to friends, offering words of comfort, reminding them that they too were loved beyond measure. No one was too far gone, no one was too broken, and no one was too lost to be embraced by God's boundless love. As the months went by, Lily's life began to transform in ways she hadn't expected. The fear of failure that had once held her back began to fade. She started to take risks, to pursue her dreams with confidence, knowing that her worth was not defined by her achievements but by the love of God. She didn't need the approval of others to feel validated. She was already validated by the creator of the universe. And so, Lily learned to live fully, to embrace the beauty of life with all its imperfections, knowing that she was loved beyond measure. Whether she succeeded or failed, whether she was joyful or sorrowful, God's love remained constant. It was a love that would never change, no matter what life threw her way. And in that love, Lily found the strength to rise above the challenges, to walk through the storms, and to live a life that reflected the boundless love of God. God's love, Lily learned, was truly the foundation of everything: her peace, her strength, and her purpose. It was a love that transcended circumstances, a love that was given freely and without condition. And with each passing day, Lily grew more and more confident in this truth, knowing that no matter where life took her, she would always be held by the unfailing, unwavering, and boundless love of God. Healing and vulnerability, a story of God's soothing words. In the heart of a quiet village, nestled between rolling hills and whispering trees, lived a young woman named Maya. Her life had not been an easy one. She had faced grief, loneliness, and heartache that had left scars deep within her soul. The people in her village admired her strength, but few knew the weight of the burden she carried. Maya had learned to hide her pain, to cover her vulnerability with a mask of independence. But inside, she was struggling. She longed for healing, for the comfort of knowing that her wounds could be healed, that her doubts could be silenced. One crisp autumn evening, Maya sat alone by the river, the water flowing gently beside her. The sun had just begun to set, casting a golden glow across the landscape. Her thoughts were heavy, filled with memories of the past, and her heart ached with the pain of unspoken words and unresolved sorrow. She had tried to move on, to push through the hurt, but the weight of it all was too much to carry alone. Maya didn't realize it at first, but in that moment, she felt a stirring in her heart, a whisper that called her to open herself up, to let go of the walls she had built around her heart. Maya, the whisper said, soft but unmistakable, I am here. You don't have to carry this burden alone. Maya froze, unsure of where the voice had come from. It was not a voice from the world around her, but something deeper, something spiritual, something divine. She had heard about God's love and healing, but she had always kept her distance, unsure of whether she was worthy of such grace. Still, the invitation in that voice was undeniable. It was as if God was offering her a way to lay down her pain, to release her fears and doubts, and to allow his soothing words to heal the wound she had kept hidden for so long. As the days passed, Maya found herself drawn to that voice. She began to pray, her words soft and tentative at first. She didn't know what to say, only that her heart was heavy and in need of healing. She asked God to help her open up, to trust that his love was big enough to heal the deepest parts of her. She asked him to remove the doubts that clouded her heart, to show her that her vulnerability was not a weakness, but a strength. One evening, as she sat by the fire in her small home, Maya felt a warmth wash over her, not from the flames, but from something within. It was a peace she had never known before, a peace that seemed to fill the very air around her. As she closed her eyes, she heard the voice again, this time clearer, more comforting. Let go, Maya. Open your heart to me. I will heal the wounds you've carried for so long. Your vulnerability is a doorway to my healing love. Tears began to fall from Maya's eyes as she felt a profound sense of release. She had always believed that vulnerability made her weak, that showing her true feelings would only lead to disappointment. But now, she understood that God was inviting her to embrace her vulnerability as an act of faith. By opening her heart, she was allowing God's love to flow into the deepest places of her soul, places she had locked away out of fear. With each prayer, with each moment of surrender, Maya began to feel lighter. The burden she had carried for so long was slowly being lifted, piece by piece. The healing process wasn't instantaneous, but she could feel the transformation taking place. Her wounds, once raw and painful, were being soothed by the gentle touch of God's love. And as she opened herself up more and more, Maya realized that her vulnerability wasn't something to fear, it was a gift, a way for her to draw closer to God and allow his healing power to work within her. One day, as she walked through the forest, Maya stopped by a clearing where the sunlight danced through the trees. She felt a deep sense of peace, as if the world around her had fallen into place. The pain of the past no longer had the same grip on her. Her heart was lighter, free from the weight of shame and self-doubt. She realized that the healing she had longed for wasn't just about her circumstances changing, it was about God changing her heart, teaching her to trust in his love and grace. Maya began to share her journey with others. She spoke to the women in her village, encouraging them to embrace their own vulnerability, to open their hearts to God's healing touch. She told them that healing was not a one-time event, but a process, a journey that required trust, patience, and a willingness to be vulnerable. And as she shared her story, she saw others begin to open up as well. finding the courage to let go of their own pain and receive the comfort of God's love. As the seasons changed, Maya's heart continued to heal. She no longer felt defined by her past hurts or by the fear of being vulnerable. She had learned that God's love was big enough to cover every wound, every fear, every doubt. And with each day, she felt stronger, not because she had it all together, but because she had learned to open her heart and let God do the healing work. She had discovered the power of vulnerability, and through it, she found the peace and healing she had always longed for. In the end, Maya knew that healing was not about perfection. It was about allowing God's love to transform her from the inside out. And she would carry that truth with her, always remembering that God's soothing words were enough to heal even the deepest of wounds. Strength and purpose, a story of overcoming through God's love. In the heart of a vast and endless forest, there lived a young man named Tahi. His life had been filled with hardship, and the weight of his struggles often felt unbearable. Yet, through it all, Tahi never lost sight of the one thing that kept him going: the knowledge that God was with him, guiding him through the darkest moments. From an early age, Tahi had been taught that strength wasn't about never falling, but about rising every time you did. This belief became his foundation, even when life seemed too difficult to bear. One winter, a terrible storm swept through the village, leaving destruction in its wake. The winds howled like wild wolves, tearing down trees and leaving the people stranded in their homes. Tahi's family was hit hardest, their small cabin damaged beyond repair. For days they struggled without warmth or shelter, and the cold gnawed at their bones. Tahi's heart ached as he looked at his parents, the strength in their eyes fading with each passing day. He knew he had to do something, but the challenge seemed insurmountable. One night, as Tahi sat by the dying fire, he closed his eyes and prayed. His heart was heavy with doubt, and fear threatened to take root. But then, as if in answer, a whisper filled his Sula quiet voice, full of strength and love. Tahi, you are never alone. You have the strength within you to overcome. Trust in me, and I will guide you. The words were simple, but they struck deep into Tahi's heart. In that moment, he understood that his struggles weren't meant to break him. Instead, they were opportunities for him to discover the strength God had already placed within him. With renewed determination, Tahi set to work rebuilding his family's home. The storm had torn everything apart, but through his faith and hard work, he began to rebuild not only their shelter, but also the hope that had been lost. As the weeks passed, Tahi encountered many more challenges. Yet, every time he faced a new obstacle, he was reminded of that whisper in the night. He was not alone, and through God's love, he had the strength to overcome anything that came his way. The village soon began to rebuild as well, and Tahi became a symbol of resilience, reminding others that no matter how difficult life's trials may be, the strength to face them came from a place of love and faith. In time, Tahi's family was safe once more, their cabin sturdy and warm against the harsh winter. Tahi had found not only the strength to survive, but a deeper understanding of his purpose. He knew now that life's struggles were not meant to defeat him, but to help him grow stronger. With God's love guiding him, Tahi understood that no challenge was too great to overcome. And with each step, he walked with a quiet confidence that he was never truly alone. Hope and healing for others. A story of trust and transformation. Long ago, in a village nestled between towering mountains, there lived a young woman named Ayana. Her life had not been easy, marked by loss and sorrow. Her people had faced many hardships, from droughts that withered their crops to winters that threatened to freeze their spirits. Ayana had witnessed it all: the pain, the heartache, and the hopelessness that seemed to hang over the village like a dark cloud. Yet, through it all, there was one thing that kept Ayana's heart alive: the belief that hope could heal, and that through God's power, all things could be restored. One evening, as Ayana sat by the fire with her grandmother, the elders shared a story that would change her life forever. Ayana, her grandmother began, there is a gift you carry inside, a gift not for you alone. It is the gift of hope, and this hope is meant to be shared with others. You are a messenger of hope, a bringer of light in the darkest times. Do not fear the trials that lie ahead, for with each one, God will give you the strength to heal and restore those around you. The words echoed in Ayana's heart. She had always felt a deep connection to others, a pull to help those in need. But she never imagined that she was called to be a source of hope, a healer of souls. That night, as she lay under the vast sky, she prayed. She asked God for guidance, for the courage to step forward and trust in His power to heal not only herself but the entire village. The next day, a neighbor named Koda came to her in despair. His crops had failed, and he feared his family would starve in the coming months. Ayana saw the pain in his eyes, the same pain she had once known. But now, she had something more to offer hope. With a heart full of compassion, she took Koda's hand and spoke the words that had been given to her. God will restore what has been lost. Trust in His power, for He is the healer of all wounds. Koda, though skeptical, agreed to trust. And just as Ayana had promised, things began to change. The rains came, the crops flourished, and Koda's family was saved. Word of Ayana's faith spread through the village, and soon others came seeking her counsel. She became a beacon of hope, a reminder that no matter how deep the darkness, God's light could always pierce through. Through each person she helped, Ayana saw the transformative power of God's love. She realized that her purpose was not just to heal, but to help others believe in their own capacity to heal, restore, and grow. With each act of kindness, each word of encouragement, she saw lives transformed and her own heart was filled with an unshakable peace. Ayana's village, once plagued by despair, began to thrive again. The people had found hope, and through it, they had discovered the strength to overcome their challenges. And as they healed, they too became messengers of hope, spreading God's love to every corner of the land. In this way, Ayana learned that hope, once shared, could heal not just one person, but an entire community. Through trust in God's power, she had witnessed the incredible transformation of lives, and she knew that no matter what the future held, the message of hope would always endure. Spiritual growth and protection, a story of strength and divine guidance. In the heart of the vast plains, there lived a young warrior named Takoda. He had always known the land's wisdom, the whispers of the wind, and the pulse of the earth beneath his feet. Yet, as he grew older, he began to sense a darkness creeping into his life, a force that threatened to disrupt the balance of his spirit. These were not the storms that could be seen on the horizon, but the spiritual battles that often went unnoticed by the eyes of the world. Takoda found himself facing doubts, fears, and struggles that weighed heavily on his heart. One night, under the light of 1,000 stars, Takoda sought guidance from his elder, a wise shaman known as Wiyaya. With a gentle hand, Wiyaya guided him to the sacred fire, where the flames danced like the spirits of their ancestors. Takoda, the shaman said, you are facing spiritual warfare, battles within your heart and soul. But know this, God has promised you protection. His plan for you is steadfast, and even in the darkest of times, His light will never leave you. Takoda listened carefully as the fire crackled and the wind whispered through the trees. The shaman's words were like a balm to his weary spirit. You are not alone in this struggle, Wiyaya continued. The Creator has granted you spiritual growth through every trial. Each challenge you face will strengthen you, for His love is a shield and His wisdom a guide. With these words, Takoda felt a new sense of clarity. He realized that the difficulties he faced were not signs of weakness, but opportunities for spiritual growth. The trials, though fierce, were meant to refine him, to shape him into the warrior he was destined to become. Through each hardship, God was building his strength, and with every prayer, Takoda felt a deeper connection to the Creator's plan. In the days that followed, Takoda carried the shaman's wisdom with him. When the winds of doubt threatened to push him off course, he prayed and trusted that God's protection was with him. And when the spiritual battles became fierce, he called upon the Creator for strength. With each prayer, his spirit grew stronger, more resilient. As Takoda faced the challenges ahead, he knew that God's promise of protection would keep him safe. No matter the battle, whether within himself or with external forces, he would always have the strength to stand tall. The Creator's plan was clear, and though the path was not always easy, Takoda walked it with confidence, knowing that he was never truly alone. Through faith, he found not only protection, but the spiritual growth that would guide him through every trial, shaping him into the warrior he was meant to be. Faith and Redemption, a journey of trust and renewal. In a time long ago, in a small village nestled among the towering mountains, there lived a young man named Mato. His life had been shaped by countless mistakes, choices he regretted, and paths he had taken that led him far from the peace his heart longed for. His days were filled with sorrow, weighed down by guilt and the shadows of his past. Mato's spirit, once strong, now felt broken, as though the burden of his mistakes had become too much for him to bear. One evening, while walking along the riverbank, Mato sat by the water's edge, staring into its deep currents. He felt lost, as though there was no way forward, no hope of redemption. It was then that an elder, who was known for his wisdom and connection to the Creator, approached him. The elder's name was Wakan, and he had seen many seasons of life. He sat beside Mato, his presence calm and steady, like the mountain that stood silently in the distance. Mato, Wakan said softly, "I see the weight you carry. You are not the sum of your mistakes. The Creator has not abandoned you, though it may feel so. He invites you to trust in Him, to let go of the past and walk into the future He has prepared for you." Mato looked at the elder, his heart heavy with doubt. "But how can I move forward?" he asked. "How can I let go of what I've done?" Wakan's eyes sparkled with a knowing light. The Creator's love is endless. His forgiveness is boundless. He offers you redemption, Mato. To let go of the past is to trust in the peace He provides, knowing that you are never beyond His reach. His promises of strength and healing are for you, if only you choose to embrace them. For the first time in many moons, Mato felt a flicker of hope within him. He had spent so many seasons holding on to his guilt, thinking it defined him, but Wakan's words stirred something deep inside. It was as if the Creator Himself was whispering to his heart, urging him to let go, to step into the light of His forgiveness. The next morning, as the sun rose over the mountains, Mato stood before the river once more. With a prayer to the Creator, he released the heavy burden of his past mistakes. He chose to trust in God's promise of redemption, embracing the future with faith that, through His love, all things could be made new. God's assurance and love, a journey of trust and transformation. In the heart of the great forest, where the wind whispered through the trees and the earth hummed with life, there was a village known for its wisdom and strength. Among the villagers was a young woman named Ayana, whose life had not been easy. From a young age, she had known the weight of hardship, watching her people face battles both within and beyond their lands. Her heart, though strong, had been weathered by sorrow and loss, and there were moments when she felt as if the Creator had turned away from her. Ayana spent many days walking the forest paths, seeking peace and answers from the natural world that had always been her refuge. The mountains loomed in the distance, steadfast and unshaken by time, and the river's endless flow seemed to speak to her soul, reminding her of the constant rhythms of life. But in her heart, there was a storm of restlessness that no beauty in nature seemed able to calm. She longed for the comfort of knowing that she was not alone, that the Creator was with her, even in her darkest hours. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in hues of purple and gold, Ayana found herself sitting by the fire. From that day on, Mato walked with a renewed spirit. The peace that had eluded him for so long now filled his heart, and he knew that with each step, he was walking in the grace and strength of the Creator's love. The past no longer held him captive. It was the future that beckoned on, filled with the Creator's promises of peace, strength, and renewal. And as Mato continued his journey, he carried with him the truth that faith in God's redemption could heal the deepest wounds and bring the light of hope into even the darkest of. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in hues of purple and gold, Ayana found herself sitting by the fire, lost in thought. The flames danced before her, their warmth a reminder of the earth's nurturing power. It was then that an elder, who had seen many seasons pass, sat beside her. His name was Takoda, and his presence carried the weight of countless prayers and stories. "Ayana," Takoda began, his voice gentle as the breeze, "I see the burden you carry. The world may have tested you, but remember that the Creator is never far from you. His love surrounds you, as constant as the stars in the sky. When you feel lost, know that he is near. Ayana's eyes filled with tears, and she turned to the elder, seeking the comfort of his wisdom. I don't understand, she whispered. How can I trust that the Creator is with me when everything around me feels broken? How can I believe in his love when the world seems so harsh? Takoda smiled softly, his eyes filled with understanding. The Creator's love is not fleeting, Ayana. It is steadfast, and it does not depend on the world's circumstances. He does not abandon his people, even when it feels as though the darkness is closing in. Trust in his presence, for it is in the quiet moments, in the stillness of your heart, that his love transforms you. Ayana listened closely, her heart slowly beginning to open to the elder's words. She had always thought that God's love was distant, something that only others could experience. But as Takoda spoke, she realized that the Creator's love was not just for the strong or the blessed, it was for everyone. It was a love that transformed, that healed, that met every need even when she could not see it. The elder continued, the Creator is not only with you in your joy, Ayana, but he is with you in your pain. His love is what carries you through the storms, what lifts you up when you are weary. You are never alone. Trust in his ability to transform your life, to meet your needs, and to bring you peace. Ayana sat in silence for a long moment, her heart filled with a quiet understanding. She had spent so much of her life looking for answers outside of herself, seeking strength in the world around her. But now, she understood that true strength came from within, from the love and assurance of the Creator who was always with her, even when she could not feel it. As the fire crackled and the stars began to twinkle above, Ayana felt a shift within her. The storm that had raged in her heart for so long began to settle, replaced by a deep sense of peace. She realized that the Creator's love was not something she had to earn or strive for. It was a gift, freely given, always present, and unchanging. She could trust in his ability to meet her needs, to transform her life, and to guide her through the uncertainties of the world. The next morning, as Ayana walked through the forest once again, she felt the weight of her fears and doubts lift. The path before her seemed clearer, and she knew deep in her spirit that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she was never truly alone. The Creator's love would always be with her, a constant presence, ready to meet every need and transform her life in ways she could not yet imagine. From that day forward, Ayana walked with a renewed sense of trust in the Creator's love. She knew that no matter the storm, his presence would guide her, his love would surround her, and his strength would carry her through. And as she shared this newfound peace with others, she became a living testament to the transformative power of God's constant assurance and love. Embrace new opportunities, trusting the Creator's path. In a village nestled between the whispering pines and the gentle rolling hills, there lived a young man named Elon, whose name meant friendly in the old tongue. He was known for his steady hands, skillful craft, and quiet nature, but inside, he carried a burden few could see. Though the people loved him, Elon often felt a pull beyond the familiar comfort of his village, a calling in the wind that stirred his spirit and whispered of something more. Yet, fear held him tightly, like roots clinging to the earth, anchoring him to what he had always known. Elon would often walk alone to the edge of the river, where the water carved a silver path through the land and seemed to speak of distant places and unseen journeys. The elders taught that the river carries stories, dreams, and messages from the Creator himself. One evening, as the sun painted the sky with streaks of orange and crimson, Elon sat by the water, wrestling with the voice within him, urging him to move beyond his comfort, to step into something new. But the thought of leaving the known for the unknown filled him with doubt. That night, he dreamed of a great eagle soaring high above the earth, its wings spread wide, its eyes sharp and clear. In the dream, the eagle called out to him in a voice that sounded like thunder and wind combined. "You are not meant to stay grounded, Elon," it said. "The Creator has placed something within you: vision, courage, and strength. But you must rise, you must trust, and you must go where he leads." Elon awoke with the echo of those words in his heart, unsure of what they meant, but unable to shake them. The next morning, Elon visited the village elder, a wise woman named Sani, whose eyes held the depth of 1,000 stories. He shared his dream and the stirring in his spirit, and she listened with the patience of the mountains. When he finished, she nodded slowly. "The Creator calls many," she said, "but only the brave answer. Fear will always whisper lies, but faith sings of truth. Trust in the path being laid before you, for it is not by your strength alone that you will walk it." Encouraged by her words, Elon decided to take his first step. He prepared a small bundle with tools, dried food, and a woven pouch of sacred herbs. The people gathered to bless his journey, and though some wept, they understood the calling upon his life. As he stepped beyond the edge of the village, he felt the weight of uncertainty and the thrill of possibility all at once. Every tree he passed, every stone beneath his feet, felt like part of something greater. As days turned to weeks, Elon faced trial storms that drenched him, paths that disappeared into thickets, and moments of loneliness that made him question his choice. But in those moments, he remembered the eagle's cry, the elder's wisdom, and the river's song. Slowly, he began to see signs: the sudden flight of birds leading him, strangers offering shelter, and dreams that filled him with peace. These were the Creator's way of guiding him, reassuring him that he was not alone. One day, Elon reached a wide clearing where a new village stood in need of a builder, a leader, and a heart full of hope. He shared his hands, his wisdom, and his spirit, helping the people rebuild what had been lost. In doing so, he discovered not only his purpose, but also the joy of stepping into the unknown with faith. His fear had not vanished, it had transformed into courage because he chose to trust. Word of Elon's journey traveled back to his home, inspiring others to listen to the call within their own hearts. He returned one season to visit, and the people greeted him not just as a son of the village, but as a man who had trusted the Creator's guidance and walked the path laid before him. His story became a song, passed down to the children, a reminder that new opportunities are not curses, but sacred invitations to grow, serve, and become. Elon's life stood as proof that the Creator does not lead us into fear, but into faith. Each challenge along the way was met with divine help, each step guided by love. To those who hesitate at the edge of something new, his story whispers like the river: "Do not be afraid. Trust, step forward, and the Creator will bless your path." Patience and abundant blessings. Trust in the timing of the Creator. In the heart of a wide valley, where tall grasses danced with the breath of the wind and mountains stood as timeless guardians, there lived a woman named Ayana, whose name meant eternal blossom. Ayana was known for her kindness and deep connection with the land, and though her hands worked with care, her heart carried a quiet ache. She and her husband, Tahu, had longed for many seasons to welcome a child, but the cradle in their lodge remained empty. Still, each morning, Ayana rose before the sun, whispered prayers to the Great Spirit, and offered her service to the village with gentle strength. Time passed like the flow of the river, sometimes rushing, sometimes still. The women around Ayana bore children, their laughter echoing through the lodges like the songs of spring birds. Though she smiled and gave gifts to each newborn, her heart often retreated into silence when the stars filled the sky. One evening, she sat beside the sacred fire with her grandmother, Isi, a woman wise with age and stories. Ayana shared her sorrow, the heaviness of waiting, and the ache of unanswered prayers. Isi placed her hand on Ayana's and spoke, "The Creator's time is not our time, child. The earth does not rush its blooming, nor the eagle its flight. Trust that what is meant for you will arrive when your spirit is ready to receive it." Ayana carried those words like a seed in her heart, watered by faith and sunlight. She continued to serve, to sing the morning songs, and to plant healing herbs along the riverbanks. Her prayers changed not cries for quick answers, but quiet words of trust and surrender. She began to see blessings all around her, the way the rain nourished the soil, the strength in her husband's arms, the laughter of children who ran to her like a second mother. Her heart softened, no longer bound by the weight of waiting, but lifted by the joy of presence. Then, during the deep quiet of winter, when the earth slept beneath snow and stars, Ayana felt something stir within her, not just in body, but in spirit. A vision came to her in a dream, a field of blossoms blooming under moonlight, and the voice of the Creator saying, "Now is the time, beloved one." Days later, a healer confirmed that Ayana carried life within her. Tears fell like rain from her eyes, not from sorrow, but from gratitude. The blessing had come, not early, not late, but right on time. News of her joy spread through the village like the first thaw of spring. The people rejoiced, not only because a child was coming, but because Ayana's journey had become a living story of trust. When her child was born, a girl with eyes like dawn and a cry strong as thunder, they named her Wanikia, meaning giver of life. The people celebrated for days, and Ayana's heart, once full of longing, now overflowed with peace. Years later, Ayana sat again beside the fire, her daughter playing nearby. A younger woman came to her with the same ache Ayana had once known. She took her hands and said, "The path is long, and the waiting can feel like silence. But remember, the Creator is always working. His timing is sacred. Trust the seasons. The blessings will come, not rushed, but rich and full." Ayana's story became one shared around fires and woven into prayer songs. It reminded all who heard it that patience is not weakness, but wisdom, that to wait with faith is to honor the Creator's design, and that when blessings come, shaped by divine hands, they overflow more abundantly than we ever imagined. Through her journey, the village remembered that the Great Spirit's love is not measured in speed, but in fullness. Every unanswered prayer was not forgotten, but held, tended, and delivered in its perfect season. And in that truth, they found peace, strength, and the courage to wait with hope.